office at Harrison Baptist Association and doing our daily reading through the book of John. Today we're in John chapter 18. John chapter 18. And I got my coffee here, got my Bible, and I'm ready to get into the Word. I hope you are today. So let's take a look. John chapter 18, verse 1. After saying these things, so after Jesus' final prayer to his disciples, as him preparing them and teaching them what is about to happen and what's going to go on, and preparing them for the time. After saying these things, Jesus crossed the Kidron Valley with his disciples and entered the grove of olive trees too. Judas, the betrayer, knew the place because Jesus had often gone there with his disciples. 3. The leading priests and Pharisees had given Judas a contingent of Roman soldiers and temple guards to accompany him. Now, with blazing torches, lanterns, and weapons, they arrived at the olive grove. 4. Jesus fully realized all that was going to happen to him. Man, what an important statement that verse 4 is. Jesus fully realized all that was going to happen to him. Nothing that happened to him was a surprise. And that's really important for some later events that happen on the cross. And we have to grasp that there was nothing that took place in the death, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ that he did not know about. And so how important that is. And so look what he does. Here comes this army of men with torches and swords and Roman soldiers, guards, Judas leading them. They're coming towards Jesus, and he knows what's happening. Look, verse 4 again. Jesus fully realized all that was going to happen to him. So he stepped forward to meet them. Jesus didn't run. He didn't try to hide. He didn't try to put it off. He stepped forward to them. He didn't stay where he was. He didn't wait for them to come to him. He moved towards them and he said, "Who are you looking for?" Jesus asked them, verse 5, "Jesus the Nazarene," they replied. See, Jesus is a Nazarene because they weren't calling him Christ. Call him Jesus because that was his name, and he was from Nazareth, and so that's who they were looking for. They didn't call him Christ. They didn't say Jesus Christ because they didn't believe of him as that, and they were looking for a particular man, and they found him in Jesus of Nazareth. And look what he says there in the second sentence of verse 5. I am he. Again, what a great statement. I am. Remember when Moses was in the desert and he was asking God, who is it that I tell the Egyptians is sending me? Who is it that I tell the Israelites that are sending me? And God says, tell them the I am. The I am, the one and only. I am sending you. And so you read that and he says, I am Jesus. Judas, who betrayed him, was standing with them. He was no longer standing with Jesus. He wasn't with the rest of the disciples. He was with the contingency that was coming to take Jesus into custody. Verse 6, as Jesus said, I am he, they all drew back and fell to the ground. There was something about the authority in his voice. There was something about, they recognized at that moment there was something different about this man, and they all fell to the ground. 7. Once more, he asked them, who are you looking for? There is not a greater question that we need to answer other than back in chapter 17 when Jesus said, "And now you believe in me?" And then he says, "Who are you looking for?" What an important question for each one of us. Who are we looking for? What are we looking for? Are we just looking for somebody to be a friend that listens to all our gripes and complains? We looking for somebody who can lead and guide us and give us the best life that we have. And how we answer this question is of utmost importance. And again, they replied, Jesus the Nazarene. Again, looking for a man. Verse 8, I told you that I am he, Jesus said. And since I am the one you want, let these others go. Saying, let the other disciples go. Let the others that are with him go, because they're not the ones you came after. You only came after one person, and that would be me. 9. He did this to fulfill his own sentence. I did not lose a single one of those you have given me, that he prayed to God. And so in that case, he let him go. 10. Simon Peter drew his sword and slashed off the ear of Michaelis, the high priest's slave. 11. But Jesus said to Peter, put your sword back into its sheath. Shall I not drink the cup of suffering the Father has given me? Look at that statement. Shall I not drink? Shall I not go forth and accomplish what the Father has set out for me to do? When we set out a cup, we set it out to drink it. We set it out to satisfy our body. We set it out to nourish us. And so in order to do that, we have to pick it up and take it. And that's what he's saying. Do I not have to do what the Father has set before me? 12. So the soldiers, their commanding officers, and the temple guards arrested Jesus and tied him up. I find that funny. They tied him up. Here's the man who didn't run, didn't try to hide. A matter of fact, came out to them, and they tie him up. Let's continue, verse 13. First, they took him to Ananias, says the father-in-law of Cleopas, the high priest at the time. 14. Cleopas was the one who had told the other Jewish leaders, it's better that one man should die for the people. 15. Simon Peter followed Jesus, as did the other disciples. Now, that's an important statement, because right now they're following him. Shortly, they're not around. The other disciples, that other disciple was acquainted with the high priest. So that was probably John. And so he was allowed to enter the high priest's courtyard with Jesus. 16. Peter, who had stayed outside the gate, then the disciple who knew the high priest spoke to a woman watching at the gate, and she let Peter in. 17. The woman said to Peter, you're not one of that man's disciples, are you? No, he said, I am not. How many times when we get asked the question directly, do we deny Christ? Do we say, oh, no, we kind of pull back into our shell. We're afraid we won't be able to answer the question, or we're afraid something won't happen. And of course, Jesus had already told Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times. 18. Because it was cold, the household servants and the guards had made a charcoal fire. They stood around it, warming themselves, and Peter stood with them, warming himself. Verse 19. Inside, the high priest began to question Jesus about his followers and what he had been teaching them. 20, Jesus replied, "Everyone knows what I teach. I, Jesus, have preached regularly in the synagogues and the temple where the people gather. I, Jesus, have not spoken in secret." 21. Why are you asking me this question? So you know what I preach. You've heard me. You've been there. Ask those who heard me. They know what I, Jesus, said. 22. Then one of the temple guards nearby slapped Jesus across the face. Is that the way you answer the high priest? He demanded. Jesus replied, if I say anything wrong, you must prove it. But if I'm speaking the truth, why are you beating me? What a question. Jesus says, you know, I'm not lying. So if I'm not lying and I'm doing exactly what I said I was doing, why are you treating me this way? 24. Then Ananias bound Jesus and sent him to Caiaphas, the high priest. There's nobody higher than the high priest. And why was Ananias even involved in this other than he was behind the scenes, the leader? He was behind the scenes pulling the strings of those in the temple. He was probably a man of great wealth. And because of that, they were looked up to him and they did what he wanted. Look at 25, verse 25. Meanwhile, as Simon Peter was standing by the fire warming himself, they asked him again, you're not one of his disciples, are you? He denied it. No, I am not. But one of the household slaves of the high priest, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, asked, didn't I see you out there in the olive grove with Jesus? You know, isn't that the way it works? Kind of get trapped in our lie, don't we? We get put back into a corner. Again, Peter denied it. And immediately the rooster crowed. Jesus told him what was going to happen. 3 times you deny me, the rooster's going to crow. And it didn't wait. It did it that very second, the very moment that those words came out of Jesus's mouth. Just as Jesus said. 28. Jesus' trial before Caiaphas ended in the early hours of the morning. That's a great statement in this verse, and it's very important that we understand that because that was illegal. It was illegal to have a trial at night, but yet the chief priests who are accusing Jesus of blaspheming and doing ungodly things, yet they do things that are illegal all along. Isn't it funny how that works out? Those that persecute Jesus, those that go against him, those even in the church today who cause problems and dissension and try to do things their way, always try to manipulate it around to making it sound like it's okay to do. 28. Jesus' trial before Caiaphas ended in the early hours of the morning. Then he was taken to the headquarters of the Roman governor. His accusers didn't go inside because it would defile them, and they wouldn't be allowed to complete the Passover. So they were okay with accusing Jesus. They were okay with taking him in an illegal trial. They were okay with breaking those laws, but they wouldn't go into the Roman governor's house because he was a Gentile. And they couldn't be in his presence, or they couldn't worship God, picking and choosing what they wanted to do and believe in, picking and choosing how they would live. You know, that's been that way all through history. Israel used to do that in the Old Testament. You know, they would honor the Sabbath day. They wouldn't work on the Sabbath day. When they were taking captivity, they were willing to have themselves killed instead of working on the Sabbath day, but then they would turn around and worship idols. You know, aren't we a little bit the same way today? We kind of pick and choose. God has one command for us and one way he wants us to live, and that's in obedience. That's in obedience to all. We can't pick and choose. We can't part of the time be obedient, part of the time do life our way. It's all for him or none for him. And here these guys are picking and choosing. Let's continue though. Verse 29. So Pilate the governor went out to them and asked, what is your charges against this man? 30. We wouldn't have handed him over to you if he wasn't a criminal. Don't answer his question. They just say, we wouldn't have given him to you if he wasn't a criminal. They reported. 31. Then take him away and judge him by your own law, Pilate told them. Only the Romans are permitted to execute someone, the Jewish leaders replied. So it tells you what they want from Jesus right here. It tells you what they're after. They're after his death. Point blank. They want him dead. 32. This fulfilled Jesus' prediction about the way he would die. 33. Then Pilate went back into his headquarters and called Jesus to be brought to him. Are you the king of the Jews? He asked him. Jesus replied, is this your own question, or did others tell you about me? Am I a Jew? Pilate reported. Your own people or their leading priests brought you to me for trial. Why? What have you done? 36. Jesus answered, my kingdom is not an earthly kingdom. If it were, my followers would have fought to keep me from being handed over to the Jewish leaders. But my kingdom is not of this world. 37. Pilate said, so you are a king? Jesus replied, you say I am a king. Accordingly, I was born and came into the world to testify to the truth. All who love the truth recognize that what I say is true. Then Pilate asked another very, very important question. What is the truth? You know, I'd be writing these down. These are great sermons that we can build off of. Sorry. What is the truth? Verse 38. Pilate asked. Then he went out again to the people and told them, he is not guilty of any crime. 39. But you have a custom to ask me to release a prisoner each year at Passover. Would you like me to release this king of the Jews? 40. But they shouted back, no, not this man. We want Barbados. Barbados was a revolutionary. So we don't want this man. We want this guy who's killed people. We want this guy who goes against all government. We want this guy that does all these things wrong. But not this man. Again, going back up to verse 38. What a great question. There's been several great questions in here. What is the truth? That's a question we have to answer. Who are you looking for? Great questions that we have to answer in life, and questions that we need to take a moment to ponder, and we need to focus on in our own life. What do we believe is the truth? For the truth will set you free. I hope you know the truth. The truth is Jesus Christ. The truth is waiting for you today. God bless you. Have a great day.